Have you ever looked at yourself and thought, who am I? You look back at your entire life and think that you have an idea of who you are. It's behaviors that you perform without even realizing it. I'll explain. Have you ever wondered why you behave the way you do? Have you ever stopped to examine the motivations behind your actions? This quote is one of the most important things you'll ever hear in your life because it changes everything. And the answer, according to Jung, is the self. But the self is not the same as the persona. The self is the true, authentic, real you. Why do you feel the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but the rewards are immeasurable. Once you start examining your own patterns and behaviors, once you start asking why, you will never be the same again. You will finally start to understand what makes you tick. Or did it make you feel challenged? Most likely, it did both. Be proud of it. Let it challenge you to become the best version of yourself. The journey inward is the most important journey you will ever take. It's the journey to your own self-discovery, to your own authenticity. It's not always an easy journey. There will be times when you feel like giving up. There will be times when it seems easier to just conform to the expectations of others. But don't give up, okay? The rewards are immeasurable, okay? But in the long run, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to you, okay? You will never trade it in for anything. So don't be afraid to go within, okay? Don't be afraid to face the darkness. In doing so, you will find the light. You will find your true self. It forced you to grow. It forced you to become a better version of yourself. You will finally start to understand your motivations, your desires, and your fears. And this knowledge will set you free. And most importantly, why do you behave the way you do? For example, why do you get angry when someone cuts you off in traffic? Is it because you're actually angry? Or is it because you've been conditioned to believe that anger is the appropriate response in that situation? If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This is so true. When we meet someone new, we can't help but compare ourselves to them. We examine our own beliefs and values. And if there is any difference, we are confronted with it. This is a good thing. It forces us to grow. It forces us to become better versions of ourselves. Or why do you feel the need to buy the latest iPhone? Is it because you really need it? Or is it because you've been brainwashed into believing that you do? Whatever it is, start questioning your automatic responses. Question everything. And once you've done that, ask yourself, why? Ask yourself why you believe the things you believe, why you feel the way you do, and why you behave the way you do. And don't stop asking why until you get to the root of the behavior. It's everything you could be and everything you could accomplish. In fact, the self is the center of the psyche, the core of our being. It's what gives our lives meaning and direction. They're slaves to their past, to their conditioning, to the expectations of others. They're living on autopilot, just doing what they've always done. But you don't have to be like most people. You can choose to be different. You can choose to take control of your life by understanding what makes you tick, by understanding your motivations, your desires, and your fears. But the problem is that most of us never tap into the self because we read too busy conforming to the expectations of others. We read too busy trying to meet the demands of the persona that we've created for ourselves that we forget that there is a real us underneath it all. Jung is right, and he usually is. Then we can say that our persona, the mask we wear in public, is not who we truly are, but who we think we are. Think about it. When you're around friends, you might act differently than you do around family. And when you're around strangers, you might act differently than you do around friends. In fact, you probably have a different persona for every social situation. So, what is the real you? The answer, unfortunately, is that nobody knows, not even you. Because according to Jung, the persona is not the true self, but rather a mask we wear to meet the expectations of others. If you're being honest, the answer is probably no, and that's perfectly fine. Most people never do. They just live their lives on autopilot, repeating the same behaviors day after day, year after year, until one day they find themselves at the end of their lives wondering where the time went. But here's the problem. We don't like to look inwards. It's scary. It's uncomfortable, okay? And most of us would rather just keep living on autopilot. Just do what we've always done. Jung warned us about this. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. If we don't examine our unconscious patterns, if we don't bring them to our conscious awareness, then they will direct our lives. A key, we will live on autopilot, and we will blame fate or the universe or whatever else for the circumstances we find ourselves in. But the truth is that we are responsible for everything that happens to us, okay? And the only way to escape this fate is to start examining our patterns and behaviors. But some people do wonder why they behave the way they do, okay? And this is where the real journey begins. When you were a child, you didn't know how to behave. So in fact, you were incapable of knowing anything at all. Your behavior was entirely instinctual. You cried when you needed something, and you smiled when you felt like it. But this didn't last for long. You soon learned that certain behaviors would get you certain responses from other people. And this is where it started. You began adjusting your behavior based on the response you got from other people. Sometimes you might have laughed to ease the tension in a room. Sometimes you might have stayed silent to avoid a fight. Sometimes you might have excelled in your work to earn your parents' approval. Whatever it was, you adjusted your behavior, and those behaviors repeated over time and your personality. But are these behaviors really yours? Or are they simply adaptations you've made to survive in a world that demanded you conform? You know your favorite color, your favorite food, your favorite band? And it's easy to assume that these things define you. But what if I told you that you really don't know yourself at all? What if you think you do? What if the you that you know is simply a set of learned behaviors? A series of actions and reactions that you perform without even realizing it. If you're still with me, then listen closely. This is very important. Welcome to the channel. You think you know yourself, but what if you don't? What if the you that you know is simply a set of learned behaviors? Before we go any further, I want to ask you a question. As Carl Jung stated, the persona is that which in reality is not what one is, but what oneself, as well as others, think one is. But wait a minute. You might be thinking, the persona is not the real me. Then who is? Here's the thing. You can't know yourself unless you examine your own patterns and behaviors. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start paying attention to your thoughts and your emotions. I know it sounds simple, but it's not easy. See, most people think that they're free, but they're not. Jung also said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. Think about the last time you met someone who was different from you. How did it make you feel? Did it make you feel uncomfortable? So, don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to stand out. When you truly know yourself, when you're living authentically, you will never regret it. Remember, the self is not something to be found.